Hello, hello everyone, and welcome for this new series regarding Xen Orchestra. This time it's the 587, and that's the release of the month of September. We have many highlights to show for this one. So we decided before entering, discussing all the features, we will show a bit more about what's going on inside the projects and around the community. So that's a bit different than usual, but uh, there's so many things that we wanted to start with this first. So let's start on this new section we have, project and community. The first interesting part, I think, regarding the community is the biggest place we use to communicate with everyone, which is the forum, and the XCPNG forum, which is also acting as the forum for everything else, is now having categories. So it was kind of flat with everything at the same place, but it was with many new topics we have right now, as you can see on the screen. Now it splits between different things. So there's categories for XCP, Xen Orchestra, XStore. Even the community itself is now having subsections. What's interesting that in those categories you have now dedicated Lite category, even migrate to XCPNG category, which is interesting to ask all the question you might have regarding how to make migration from VMware, Hyper-V, whatever, to our platform. And in the Xen Orchestra section, now we split into, I would say, basic management features, advanced backup, which is a pretty big topic, but also the REST API section, which is now fully dedicated to get your feedback on this API that is meant to be public and used. And we need your input, to decide what to expose first in this API. So we started already with many objects, but your use cases, we can't, guess them. There are so many of them. So feedback is really appreciated. And now we got a dedicated section for that. For XStore, there is an entire dedicated category. It's moving forward pretty fast. So that's also the opportunity to tell you that for the next release, we'll have a new UI to be able to create it. And we are working really hard with Linbit, our partner, for the solution to squash the last bugs and things that might happen to be sure the product will meet all the quality we expect for it. And the community section have a new place, which is share your setup, which is meant to finally have a place where you could show your home lab and so on. So this is really important because we did that. In fact, we created a post on explaining what we did here at Vase to host our entire infrastructure. And believe me, we are hosting many things. Basically, everything we use internally at Vates is based on open source software that is self-hosted. So there's also a reminder to this article. So if you want to take a look, click on it and go ahead. That's a really interesting read if you want feedback on many open source software we use and self-hosts. So feel free to go in that cat, share pictures of your architecture, or even ask questions how to do this and that. We'll be happy to participate and share our knowledge on it. So let's move on to another topic, which is also something we did in the last months. We took time to review our entire GitHub issues we had, and we took time to, let's say, analyze all those issues, to try to sort them into different milestones and so on. So that's what we did. And to be fair, I think maybe 3-4 months ago, we were around almost, let's say, 400 500 issue opened. So we decided to go into each issue and then finally to close all the irrelevant one, or finally most of them were already fixed and we forgot about it. And also we put everything into milestones, like a milestone for the next quarter. So we prioritized a lot of small things, but we wanted to be sure we could fix many small stuff that is easy to fix as we are moving on. For, let's say, the heavy lifting will be done on switching for the new UI. So it's basically finishing easy stuff for the current version and also working on the longer run for the version 6. Let's move on to the next topic, which is related to partnership with let's say, a server provider. It's called 2CRSI. So it's very exciting news. In fact, that's our first official, let's say, true partnership with a hardware provider, and 2CRSI is not very well known despite they're doing many machines, and especially for high performance computing in Europe. They are based in France. And our goal with that is to be able, with them in the next months, to be able to sell our entire Vates VM stack. As a reminder, it's XCPNG, Xen Orchestra, XoStore, Lite, you name it. All of that into on-the-shelf product where we will bundle everything with the hardware that we tested and so on. So that's the first step with them. We hope to have more hardware server manufacturer in the next months, hopefully. So we could have multiple offer where we, directly work to improve the partnership. And it means also for you as a user, the capability to purchase something that is fully integrated, tested, and even providing, extra features that you don't have with, let's say, a random hardware provider. So to give you an example, we could work with 2CRSI to provide, let's say, advanced reading on their hardware, like CPU temperature, many other, if the airflow is correct, if the power draw is correct, and so on. And because we know the hardware behind it, we know the limits of the hardware, and then we could provide new, UI directly in Xen Orchestra to manage that hardware, and ideally even to update the firmware, detect when we need new firmwares, and so on. So really have the let's say full stack integration from the management, hypervisor, and hardware into single solution. Obviously, it means we'll stay compatible with the rest, but you'll have more perks to go to a validated solution. So that's we are working on, and we hope to get something to announce relatively soon. So stay tuned on that. It's a pretty big news, in fact. So let's move on now to the let's say new features available in Xen Orchestra, and in fact in Lite. So as you remember, Lite is meant to be the de facto standard way to manage your XCPNG hosts after installation, because it will bundle in the XCPNG 8.3 release, which is still in beta, but we hope to get it released before the end of the year. And it will have Lite bundled directly into it. And to show that we are moving to that direction, we managed to build the RPM package that will be directly integrated when you install it. So it means even offline without any internet connection, you will be able to enjoy Lite. And so as soon as we do updates, we will update the package. Maybe we will see to have if we detect a version online is available, we'll make it available. But I mean, the biggest thing is now, even in a fully air-gapped environment, you will be able to use Lite without any issue. So that's really good news. And in terms of features for Lite, we have the new bulk migration stuff that is coming. So basically, the bulk migration action and also bulk snapshot is basically you could migrate many VMs at once or snapshot many VMs at once. It's not that hard to build itself. It's building the UI to think about when you do many actions at the same time, which takes some time. But again, that's time we kind of got already for XO6, because all those questions and the results will be reused for XO6 UI. The other Lite feature we got is displaying the dashboard patches. So this means now your dashboard is almost complete with all the information you need to manage alarms, patches, everything going on into your pool. So now it works pretty well, and it's almost complete. So that's done. That's pretty good news. Let's move on to Xen Orchestra directly, with many topics to cover, but we'll start with the backup. So the backup is about not a new backup feature per se, but let's say backup improvement. So regarding the improvement on the backup, it's now we are blocking VM migration if the backup is started, because some customers were just doing some live operation despite running a backup job, which is not great because you could have surprises, especially if you live migrate from one storage to another. The VM disk will change UID and so on. So you can't do that while you are doing a backup. So to avoid this situation to happen, because maybe, there's many admins, many users that are not aware of that, we will just, lock the VM to prevent to do any migration, and then do the backup. And when it's done, unlock it. The other stuff we do is also detecting when the backup starts. We are sure now if the VM is doing something, then we will skip it. So even if the VM was doing a migration before and it's still in progress when the backup is starting, it won't interfere and it will the VM finish it and it will be considered as skip. So all in all, the backup is now more resilient regardless what you are doing with it. It was not that simple. There's many edge cases we have to deal with, but I think the overall quality of life on Xen Orchestra and XCPNG is a lot better right now. Let's move on to the MISC section. So this time the MISC section is pretty big because we started to ship many features. So that's really let's say delivering many stuff. So the first thing we did this month as an extra feature, let's call it like this, is to download all the host system logs directly from the UI. So this means that is pretty big. It's a pretty big operation, meaning that when you do that, it takes some time to generate the table because it's hundreds of megabytes of file that will be downloaded, generated, then downloaded. So it's really meant for, let's say, deep investigation and things like this. So yeah, it's let's say really useful when you want to do that. Okay, so then what do we have? Then we have, let me scroll. Oh, yes, about that. It will be also available directly into the REST API. So it means that you could also get the logs directly from the REST API. So this is also something you could achieve without having the UI to use it. So it's pretty convenient too. Then what we added also a very interesting feature called disk health monitoring, and thanks to an external contribution by Cecile on XCPNG, adding a plugin to the Zapi itself. So the API of XCPNG could use smartctl to make calls on your hard drives, and then we could expose those results to Xen Orchestra. So as soon as we got the release, the blog post release, you will have screenshots of that. But basically, this is helpful to get hardware information directly from your system to be exposed inside a Xen Orchestra UI. So if all the disks got the past status in smartctl, you'll just have a green dot with a success. And if it doesn't, then you will have all the smartctl information like temperature, all the details you might need to understand what's going on, and maybe to detect that you have some issues with your hard drives. So it's pretty convenient. And we are also happy to have that through an external contribution for the XCPNG parts. So that's a demonstration that we are truly open to get people to contribute to the platform. Let's move on to another feature we added right in the UI. So another one. It's the capability to restart XenServer. So usually you could do that by going into a shell in Xen Orchestra appliance, for example, and type, systemctl restart XenServer. But sometimes it's a bit, you don't have time to connect in SSH or whatever to access the console. So now you could directly do it from the web UI, which is really convenient if you have an issue or whatever, and this is protected. You have to type the text restart XenServer to be sure to restart it, obviously, because if you do that during a backup, then obviously it will interrupt the backup and so on and so on. But still, this is a convenient feature we expose directly in the UI, so it's rather convenient. It will be also added at some point to the REST API, but probably in the next release. Let's move on to another feature. As I said, this month we have many small or medium features. So as you can see, this is helpful for quality of life. This one is for people using SAN in iSCSI mostly, or HBA. That is those SANs supporting thin or reclaim for free blocks. So basically, XCPNG will send a request of trim reclaim to your SAN. You could do that with the XC CLI, but we decided to expose this directly into Xen Orchestra. That might help you to save some space and tell your SAN that all those zero blocks could be discarded and so on. So it's only useful for shared block device, maybe also local block device, not sure. If you are using file-based storage, it's not a problem because it's a file-based system and it's different. It doesn't need to use that. We also added other stuff like showing in our new task system with when you sign in, and if you have failed sign in, it will be recorded. So that's in the goal to improve the security, to be aware about what's going on if there are brute force on your Xen Orchestra login page and so on. As a reminder, there is a backing off mechanism built in, and you can also enable OpenID Connect, or single sign-on. We use that here at Vates with sign-on on our Xen Orchestra page. And then you could rely on, for example, a YubiKey or something like that, a strong two-factor authentication. But still, if you want to be aware about any brute force, now it will be added in our new task system, so you will be aware about it. Screenshots are coming after the official release in the next hours, so stay tuned. Um, Also, we added the capability to display exactly the product and the version that you are using. So that's useful because sometimes we only know the version previously that you are using 8.2, but we still have a very small number of our users that are relying on XenServer. So I think there are less than 2% of our install base that are using XenServer. But for them, it's better to know if they have XenServer or XCPNG installed. So now we put the name XenServer or XCPNG plus the version number. So it's convenient. And to be fair, we had our share of people mixing the two in the past, but now almost everyone migrated to XenServer. And speaking of which, in the last 3 or 4 months, Xen Orchestra wasn't able to update XenServer patches because they made a change in the way patches are fetched. Before that, we had an XML online. We could, because the way to update on XenServer is completely different than on XCPNG. It's not just YUM based. You have a list of patches through ISO and so on. It's a bit complex. But we had an XML from citrix.com, and we could parse it and then display patches you didn't have on your host and click on install. That will be get the URL of the patches, download it, and that would work. However, since XenServer is now a separate business unit from Citrix as inside the cloud software group, they extracted their IT from Citrix, and they also changed the way to download patches, and they put them behind a paywall. And so you had to generate a client ID first, to kind of a token, if you like, to be able to download that. So we had to change Xen Orchestra to, so first you go on a Citrix website, still citrix.com. I don't know why it's not yet XenServer website, but doesn't matter. You get the client ID, you upload it into your Xen Orchestra, and when it's uploaded, then you should be able to access the patches and deploy them. So it's a bit complex, and you also need a license to install it. So you have a daemon license and whatever. So if you have question, ask XenServer, and we are truly happy to have an easier alternative where there is no paywall to make all the updates. But still, our last users on XenServer can now make this update. So at least they have a solution, and we always wanted to serve them. We don't want to make them a second class citizen, but then it took us some time to keep up with the new limitation there is in XenServer. So that's it for Xen Orchestra. As you can see, many news, many new features, and so on. And we hope that it will be even faster in the next months, since, as I said in the first place, we improve and we reorganize the priorities and so on. So expect also cool announcements with our new hardware partner, 2CRSI. So really exciting times, and we hope you enjoy this release. And let's see you in the next months for even more exciting announcements. See you. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.